Oh, hey! I didn't know we were doing another Dirty Nerds entertainment video, but I guess here we are. The book in particular that I will be reading for you guys in this session is gonna be Phantom of the Opera! I don't know how to pronounce things in French, but Gaston Leroux is how I'm assuming it's kind of supposed to be pronounced. If I was gonna be my lazy piece of shit American self, I'd say Gaston Leroux, because it rocks better. There's something important on the inner page, which checking to make sure. Wait, what? Where did he die? In Nice. Okay then. Now, as some of you know, or some of you may not know, Phantom of the Opera is super fucking, popular in, media and stuff like that. There's a lot of plays, a lot of musicals, this is the play, a lot of movies and movie adaptations. They've referenced it in TV shows, they've made multiple different kinds of movies based on it, and if anyone says that the Rat Man was not the best version of a fucking, Eric, then you're fucking wrong. Batman's the best. He's the best. I've watched a lot of these, alternative movies. I need to go back and finish them. Actually, I'm gonna sit and rewatch them. Maybe that'll be a fun video. I'll just, comment on each and every single one of them and, the differences compared to the book. Because, the Rat Man's the most ridiculous, and yet it's, the most fun one to watch out of all of them. Aside from, Phantom of the Suplex or whatever that fucking movie theater related. They're all movie theaters. Anyhow, yeah, my favorite version is the Rat Man, and I love Eric and Phantom of the Opera, and to show how much I love them, I'm gonna show this old relic from, my high school years, because I did do, Phantom of the Opera. I did Eric one year for a cosplay, and now the string's super loose, because it's been hanging up there for ages, and anyhow, let's get straight to the point. I'm gonna read the backside first before we read the first section. In a cavernous theater, the lights dim. We can already tell it's gonna be great reading for me. A beautiful young soprano, Christine Day, comes on stage to sing Margaretine in Gounod's Faust. This is gonna be a great time for me. In the audience, the Vicomte de Chagny is overcome with love. But, unbeknownst to Chagny... Chagny? I should have studied French. So I can pronounce these names. You guys are gonna hate me. You're gonna fucking hate me by the end of this. Everyone's gonna be so mad. He has a rival for the singer's affections. The opera ghost. A specter, sometimes called the Angel of Music. The Angel of Music. Don't know if you guys can hear me, to be honest, because my earphones don't work on this. This is the appropriately gothic setup for Phantom of the Opera, Gaston Leroux's endearingly popular thriller, with a plot as convoluted as the hidden passages beneath the opera house and a cast of characters as numerous as the chorus of Aida. Okay, well, first of all, I mean, it's not that full of cast. I've seen casts with, more people. Someone texted me. Oh, someone's calling me. Well, I don't give two shits about that. It's not that, full of people, and the story itself is not that convoluted once you get, it's like a very light, detective drama kind of shit going on there, because you're like, how did he do all these things? And then later on, they're like, this is how he did it! And it's, the dumbest shit. The only reason he gets away with it for such a long time, and everyone's like, oh, how did he do it? How did he do it? Because everyone's a fucking dumbass. It's there are hidden panels everywhere. There are secret doors. And he pretty much lives here. You barely, all of you people here barely explore the house. And it's really not that difficult because this is such a wide fucking area of dead space going on here. How can you not sneak around this place? That's my rant about the opera house. Because, yeah, anyhow, did I finish reading this? It's a watered down detective story / romance. We'll talk about that later. It's not very romantic. If anything, it's more just dumb. But we can discuss that later. Where did I stop reading at? Of course, I don't know what the fucking that play is. The sheer accumulation of intricate detail and shadowy menace. A falling chandelier taken from a true incident and an underground lake add to the gloom and the dread. Again, watered down. Kind of like the watered down gothic crap. I've read more. The novel, richer than any of its adaptations, is best read at night with the lights turned low and with music Faust perhaps playing softly in the background. I'm not gonna play Faust in the background for you guys. Cause I'm gonna be making fun of this shit as I read it. But if you want to find Faust and put it on in the background, go ahead. I've never heard anything from Faust. I have to say, I just thought of this. I realized as a middle school / high schooler, you were either really into Dracula or you were into Phantom of the Opera. It's like the horses or wolves or what else were girls into? I don't remember. I don't talk to people ever. Anyway, I know that the falling chandelier was an incident. I thought Leroux wrote the first story, so I don't know why they're saying any of the other adaptations, unless it's just like he's the first and he's like, I'm the best at this version, and people just wrote shit off of this. I could have sworn that's what happened, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't a Broadway play before it was a book, but you know, this is like, meh. Anyhow, without further ado, I'm going to just go ahead and read the fucking prologue and stop putting it off by talking about this book, because that's not what you guys came here for, if at all. But this is what I want to do, and this is what I can do right now, so this is what I'm doing. Prologue, in which the author of this singular work informs the reader of how he acquired the certainty that the opera ghost really existed. Again, fucking funny considering, like, this is all fiction. The only thing that you legit had was the chandelier falling. I think there's a couple other things, too, that people were like, oh, what's this? But, like, just for future, the opera ghost really existed. Thanks, it's a good intro line for this fucking, like, convincing essay on why it is the opera ghost existed. The opera ghost really existed. No, swear, man. He's like, I saw him in the shower. He had, like, a six-pack. He was ripped. Memes. Meme-loving fuck. Anyways. He was not, as long believed, a creature of the imagination of the artists, the superstition of managers, or a product of the absurd and impressionable brains of the young ladies of the ballet. Their mothers, the box keepers, the cloakroom attendants, or the concierge. Yes, he existed in flesh and blood, although he assumed the complete appearance of a real phantom, that is to say, of a spectral shade. Again, I swear he was real, dude. This isn't just some made-up story that everyone that lived in this house made up because of, like, a bunch of weird, unexplained events that handful of people did and then never confessed to, because why the fuck would they confess to that kind of shit? When I began to ransack the archives of the National Academy of Music, I was at once struck by the surprising coincidences between the phenomenon ascribed to the ghost and the most extraordinary and fantastic tragedy that ever excited the Paris upper classes, and I soon conceived the idea that this tragedy might reasonably be explained by the phenomena in question. The events do not date more than 30 years back, and it would not be difficult to find, at the present day, in the foyer of the ballet, old men of the highest respectability. Respectable men, people. Men upon whose word one could absolutely rely, because, you know, old guys, they know everything. They remember every little thing. They don't just make up shit and, like, I just find it so fucking annoying. I swear they're real! I swear it's a true story, guys! Because you could totally take everyone's word for it. Respectable old crotchety men who like to perv after young ballerina girls. So annoying. Respectable men. Respectable men that you could rely on, who would remember as though they happened yesterday the mysterious and dramatic conditions that attended the kidnapping of Christine Daae, the disappearance of Vicomte de Chagny, and the death of his elder brother, Count Philippe, whose body was found on the bank of the lake that exists in the lower cellars of the opera on the Rue Scribe side. But none of these witnesses had until that day thought that there was any reason for connecting the more or less legendary figure of the opera ghost with that terrible story. The truth was slow to enter my mind, puzzled by an inquiry that at every moment was complicated by events which, at first sight, might be looked upon as superhuman, and more than once was I within an ace of abandoning a task in which I was exhausting myself in the hopeless pursuit of a vain image. He came up with this shit on the spot. He's like, oh, this happened? Oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was the opera ghost who did it, guys? I swear it was him. It makes sense, right? And now I seem like I'm being really salty and annoyed by this, like, his writing. It's just fucking funny. Then he's like, I swear the opera ghost is real, guys! I swear! And then here's why! But then, like, he's not really explaining why. Like, he doesn't explain why until, like, that's the next section I'm about to read, but it's just fucking annoying. He's like, he's like, it's like he's writing a journalist, like, entry, like, page talking about it, and he's like, I want to reveal the true story about the opera ghost, and it's gonna be totally rad. It's dumb. I forgot about this. I forgot how stupid this first chapter, this prologue was. I hate prologues, guys. It's the number one thing I hate is a prologue, because it's never that good. It's just dumb. Alright. At last, I received the proof that my presentiments had had not deceived me, and I was rewarded for all my efforts on the day when I required the certainty that the opera ghost was more than a mere shade. Again, repeating himself. On that day, I had spent long hours over the memoirs of a manager, the light and frivolous work of the too skeptical Moncharmin. I'm probably gonna get lazy and pronounce everything in an American accent, so you guys are gonna have to get used to it real fast. I'm gonna get lazy real fast. Who, during his term at the opera, understood nothing of the mysterious behavior of the ghost, and who was making all the fun of it that he could at the very moment when he became the first victim of the curious financial operation that went on inside the magic envelope. Oh, magic envelope! I had just left the library in despair when I met the delightful acting manager of our National Academy, who stood chatting on a landing with a lively and well-groomed little old man, to whom he introduced to me gaily. The acting manager knew all about my investigations and how eagerly and unsuccessfully I had been trying to discover the whereabouts of the examining magistrate in the famous Chagny case. Fair? This isn't fair. Nobody knew what had become of him, alive or dead, and here he was back from Canada, where he had spent 15 years, and the first thing he had done on his return to Paris was to come to the secretarial offices at the opera and ask for a free seat. The little old man was M. Flower himself. This next part's kind of dumb, so it's like, he was at the library studying, looking over the memoirs of a manager, and then he ran into the acting manager of the opera house, who knew about the investigation, and Fair, who studied the Chagny case, so now he has an eyewitness he can speak to. is what that past paragraph just talking about in case you lost track. God knows I forgot what was fucking happening. We spent a good part of the evening together, and he told me the whole Chagny case as he had understood it at the time. He was bound to conclude in favor of the madness of the Viscount and the accidental death of the elder brother for the lack of evidence to the contrary. But he was nevertheless persuaded that a terrible tragedy had taken place between the two brothers in connection to the Christine Day. With Christine Day. He could not tell me what became of Christine or the Viscount. When I mentioned the ghost, he only laughed. He, too, had been told of the curious manifestations that seemed to point out the existence of an abnormal being residing in one of the most mysterious corners of the opera, and he knew the story of the envelope, but he had never seen anything in it worthy of his attention as a magistrate in charge of the Chagny case, and it was as much as he had done to listen to the evidence of a witness who appeared of his own accord and declared that he had often met the ghost. This witness was none other than the man whom all Paris called the Persian, who was well known to every subscriber to the opera. The magistrate took him for a visionary. So the person they're referring to as the Persian, he basically is one of the people who knows the opera ghost, or Eric is going to call him, because calling him the opera ghost when you already know his name is obnoxious. De l'opera. He's one of the people who knows Eric. He's basically, he knows of Eric and a lot of Eric, and he's met with Eric multiple times, is basically what they're stating at this point. There's no secret to that. Maybe what he's doing specifically right now is just what he was doing in relation to Eric is a secret right now, but, like, he knows Eric. He's talked to Eric physically, and he knows what Eric's been doing, and he's basically one of those big brother buddy friend things to Eric from the sounds of it. Not from the book, but, like, after a while, after you read enough of it, you're like, basically. Yeah, that's who they're talking about. And Monsieur Fair talked to the Persian a lot, and he knows Eric. The end of that paragraph. I was immensely interested by the story of the Persian. I wanted, if there was still time, to find this valuable and eccentric witness. The witness that everyone sees as a visionary. I'm going to call him eccentric for some weird reason, because he's weird-ish. My luck began to improve, and I discovered him. My luck improved. They told me where to find the Persian. He's still here. I discovered him in his little flat in the Rue de Rivoli. Rivoli? We're calling it Ravioli. Just piss you off. Where he had lived ever since what? Leroux, ever since what? And where he died 5 months after my visit. Did you kill him, Leroux? The only person who could have connected anyone else to the story if you wrote any bullshit, you killed him. I was at first inclined to be suspicious, but when the Persian had told me, with childlike candor, all that he knew about the ghost, and handed me the proofs of the ghost's existence, including the strange correspondence of Christine Day, to do as I pleased with, I was no longer able to doubt. No, the ghost was not a myth. Which again brings up the question, why would you give these papers to this person and not just, like, write out the story yourself or something like that? Like, this is one of the weird things. Like, you kept the secret for such a long time, and you haven't told anyone for the longest time, and now all of a sudden you're like, now that everything's past and I'm about to die, someone must know of my legacy. Stupid. My best guess is that Leroux stole this information from the Persian, and the Persian's like, well. Because that doesn't make too much sense otherwise to me. I know, I have been told that the correspondence may have been forged from the first to last by a man whose imagination had certainly been fed on the most seductive tales, but fortunately I discovered some of Christine's writing outside the famous bundle of letters, and on a comparison between the two, all my doubts were removed. I also went into the past history of the Persian and found that he was an upright man and capable of inventing a story that might have defeated the ends of justice. This, moreover, was the opinion of the more serious people who, at one time or another, were mixed up in the Chagny case, who were friends with the Chagny family, to whom I showed all my documents and set forth all my interferences. In this connection, I should like to print a few lines which I received from General D. Great choice there, General D. Sir, I cannot urge you too strongly to publish the results of your inquiry. I remember perfectly that, a few weeks before the disappearance of that great singer Christine Day, and this tragedy which threw the whole of the Faubourg Saint-Germain into mourning, there was a great deal of talk in the foyer of the ballet on the subject of the ghost, and I believe that it only ceased to be discussed in consequence of the later affair that excited us all so greatly. But if it is possible, as after hearing you I believe, to explain the tragedy through the ghost, then I beg you, sir, I beg you, to talk to us about the ghost again. Mysterious though the ghost may first appear, he will always be more easily explained than the dismal story in which malevolent people have tried to picture the two brothers killing each other who had worshipped each other all their lives. Believe me. I honestly don't remember who General D is, but basically he's writing that there's no way that brothers Raoul and Felipe killed each other, and it had to be the ghost, and we can tell you why it was the ghost, and information and stories, and I don't know if this would be a myth or a legend or what. I never understood the differences between all that, but that's basically what he's saying. He's like, there's no way, and we can tell you why, because the brothers worshipped each other for the entirety of their lives, and they loved each other, but like, in the entirety of the book, there's no explanation of the brotherly love they supposedly had for each other. They didn't go into detail. They didn't cover any of it. It's just Raoul and Christine and Eric. That's it. So it's dumb. Lastly, with my bundle of papers in hand, I once more went over to the ghost's vast domain, the huge building which he had made his kingdom, and he the king. He is the king. All that my eyes saw, all that my mind perceived, corroborated the Persian's documents precisely, and a wonderful discovery crowned my labors in a very definite fashion. I'm also just going to pause to say, I want to finish this because it's like the last page, but I just want to say, I love that they're so fucking lazy that they can't even give him an actual name. They're like, oh, just the Persian. He's the Persian. Really, there's no other Persians in that town that you could refer to as the Persian. Like, you can't give him a name. Corroborated the Persian's documents precisely, and a wonderful discovery crowned my labors in a very definite fashion. It will be remembered that, later, when digging in the substructure of the opera, before burying the phonographic records of the artist's voice, the workmen laid bare a corpse. Well, I was at once able to prove that this corpse was that of the opera ghost. We found a corpse. It has to be the opera ghost. First thought we... I made the acting manager put this proof to the test with his own hand, and it is now a matter of supreme indifference to me if the papers pretend that the body was the victim of the Commune. The wretches who were massacred under the Commune in the cellars of the opera were not buried on this side. I will tell you where their skeletons can be found in a spot not very far from that immense crypt which was stocked during the siege with all sorts of provisions. I came upon this track just when I was looking for the remains of the opera ghost, which I should never have discovered but for the unheard of chance described above. That he found. He's saying that he found a dead body, so he went looking. He's like, oh, well, this is where all the other dead bodies are. And this dead body's by himself out in the middle of fuck nowhere. That makes sense. But we will return to the corpse and what ought to be done with it. Can I also mention, what's putting your hand onto the other hand, like, prove? Like, that doesn't really make sense. I guess the opera ghost had really big hands? No. But we will return to the corpse and what ought to be done with it. For the present, I must conclude that this very necessary introduction by thanking Monsieur Mifroid, who was the commissary of police in the first investigations after the disappearance of Christine Day, Monsieur Rennie, the late secretary, Monsieur Mercier, the late acting manager, Monsieur Gabriel, the late chorus master, and more particularly Madame la Baronne de Castelot-Barbezac, who was once the little Meg of the story, and who is not ashamed of it. I forgot whether MME is Madame or Mademoiselle. I think it's supposed to be Madame. So I think Mademoiselle has an S. And they have like the short anything like Mr. or Mrs. That's why I don't fucking know what they are representing. I'm not ashamed of it. The most charming star of our Admiral Corse de Valet, the eldest daughter of the worthy Madame Giry, now deceased, who had charge of the ghost's private box. Madame Giry is the other person who knows the ghost. All these were of the greatest assistance to me, and thanks to them I shall be able to reproduce those hours of sheer love and terror in their smallest details before the reader's eyes. And I should be ungrateful indeed thanks Dowdy, if I omitted, while standing on the threshold of this dreadful and voracious story, to thank the present management of the opera, which has so kindly assisted me in all my inquiries, and Monsieur Messager in particular, together with Monsieur Gavion, the acting manager, and that most amiable of men, the architect entrusted with the preservation of the building, who did not hesitate to lend me the works of Charles Garnier, although he was almost sure that I would never return it to him. Because you're a piece of shit, Leroux. And lastly, I must pay a public tribute to the generosity of my friend and former collaborator, Monsieur J. Le Croix, who allowed me to dip into his splendid theatrical library and to borrow the rarest editions of books by which he set the great store. Gaston Leroux. Now that's the end of the prologue. I forgot what comment I had about this. I just could have sworn he wrote it at the time, like, I don't know why he went back to write about it, because he makes it sound like it's ages after the initial, accident where the chandelier falls, because that's when, like, everyone's like, oh, well, the Phantom. But I guess he's writing this, like, way afterwards. I don't know. It's kind of one of the confusing, weird things about the book, I guess. Because he's writing after the fact. Which means someone wrote before the fact about stuff that happened, but he's like, no, we gotta make this different. Which is whatever, but you know, like, if you didn't know this already about, like, fiction and stuff like that, is, like, usually, people, like, a good chunk of the time, people will take real life events and incorporate it into the story. Now, how realistic, like, how, like, honest they are about that event that they're incorporating into the story is questionable. It's like found footage movies where they're like, part of these are true and this is all based off of real events. I'm like, but you know it's kind of not like that. Just like Paranormal Activity. It's bullshit. Anyhow, I hope you guys had fun. We will have another episode up hopefully soon. Go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment about my horrible pronunciation, whatever tickles your fancy, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.